Hi everyone, it's time for the weekly video. It is on a Tuesday again rather than the Monday because I was waiting to see if any post would arrive. It hasn't. I'm not sure of the full release date. I'm eagerly awaiting the Indicator Todd Slaughter box set, and I pre-ordered that with the book bundle, so it might take a little bit longer. They'll all be new to me, surprise surprise, but I will look forward to exploring that. I've got a couple of things so I can discuss this week. It is still Noirvember, going at a fair pace, and because of a couple of other podcasts, I've picked a couple of big titles off my list that were good. The Not a Bomb podcast guys, I think next week or the week after, they are covering the Narrow Margin movies. Now, I'd seen the Narrow Margin years ago. It's a very good film noir. It's a classic noir. If you like the style, if you like those kinds of films, then do check it out. I hadn't seen the remake / reworking with Gene Hackman in the lead role, so I watched that over the weekend. Narrow Margin is the title, funnily enough. It's very good, very enjoyable, nicely in line with the original film, but tweaks a few things, and yeah, I just recommend it, and I thank Not a Bomb podcast for pushing me towards that. I've also been listening lately to the Talk Without Rhythm podcast, which is hosted by I'm not going to say his name in case A, I misremember it, and B, he tends to refer to himself as another identity, a recording name, so I won't do that. Anyway, the Talk Without Rhythm podcast is very good. It's for the most part a person talking solo about movies, which is a lot harder to do than the group effort that we do on Riddles of Podcast. And he was covering on one of the episodes Odds Against Tomorrow, so I hadn't seen that. I marked it off a list. Great film. Ed Begley, Robert Ryan, Harry Belafonte, just really, really good. So again, I'm glad of the push towards that. And for some reason, that reminded me that I'd never seen the Asphalt Jungle. So I watched the Asphalt Jungle. I think in my head, I'd always confused the two, and I could never remember which one I'd already seen. In my mind, not knowing that I'd still to see both of them. That's how my brain works. So now I have seen both of them, and I really recommend both. I'm sure if you're fans of film noir, you've seen those. But again, that's thanks to the Talk Without Rhythm podcast. That was really good. The other day, I was just listening to Dawn of the Dead's podcast again. She had a selection of Thanksgiving-themed horror movies, and it was very enjoyable. And I messaged her. There was a little coincidence while I was due to listen to her podcast, a work-related thing. I can't mention here, but let's just say cranberry was involved, and it wasn't just cranberry sauce. Anyway, there's been a lot of good stuff to listen to in my ears, so I thought I would share some of them. I also have been enjoying the Final Transmission podcast lately. Is it Watch It If You Can, I think. And last week, I hope you'll listen to me guesting once again on the Watch Skip Plus podcast. I love Jose and Justin. I love their podcast and their format, and it was a real pleasure to join them again. And this time we discussed Five Nights at Freddy's. So that was fun. I'll pop the link below, and hopefully you can check that out. Lots of people this weekend have been talking about The Killer, the new David Fincher movie that landed on Netflix. It did have a limited cinema run elsewhere. A lot of the conversation about that has reminded me of ways in which we have movie conversations, and yeah, it made me want to mention something. I really liked The Killer. I liked it more by the time it ended, and I spent time thinking about it than I did when it started, and I wanted something from it that it wasn't necessarily going to give me. A lot of people may have gone into The Killer thinking it was a standard Hitman movie, a violent revenge movie, whatever you want from it. It's not necessarily those things. But Other people have then watched the film and found it quite boring and quite empty, and you know, many opinions across the board vary with it. I actually found it very funny the more I thought on it, and I thought there was there was a point to it, but that point was the reinforced comedic point going on. Both of these viewpoints are valid, and there are many viewpoints in between, so it's interesting to see the people who can sit at opposite ends of the spectrum and discuss it quite politely, and the other people who have to come along and try and give evidence that they think backs up their viewpoint or refutes your viewpoint. I've seen that happening sometimes, not too much, but sometimes, and it's very odd. Particularly when it's not necessarily amongst people who are having extremely strong opinions on the film, because I've seen very few people who absolutely love it, but there are some who thinks it's, you know, an absolute top tier Fincher movie. I've not actually seen any of Fincher's other Netflix work. I've yet to watch Mindhunter, and somehow I've missed Mank. Mank is, I think, the only Fincher directed movie that I've yet to watch. So yeah, I'll need to try and make time for that at some point. Anyway, I recommend The Killer, but I do know that, you know, you could be just as likely to really dislike it. You might find it boring. You might find it feels empty and has nothing to say. I really liked it. It's not one I would quickly recommend to people, particularly if they are thinking it's Fincher doing a typical Hitman movie or a John Wick style movie or Leon the Professional style movie. But I hope you've checked out and formed your own opinion on it. As I've said, November continues apace. I've already watched a couple of Christmas movies. There's a film called Christmas in Scotland that we watched, and I'll be honest, I was expecting a lot of dodgy Scottish accents. Didn't get that. They were quite good. The lead was okay, and then every time the lead character's on-screen father spoke, there was something a bit odd, and I wondered what was going on. What they've done is they've made this film by making use of an American leading lady, casting Scottish people around her when they are in this Scottish village. It was filmed in an area of Fife. I can't remember the place name. And then using a couple of other British actors to portray the one or two other American characters who would be involved in the plot. One of those British actors portrays the main character's father. It's not good. He changes his accent roughly 3 to 4 times within every sentence. It's very painful on ears, but in a way I kind of appreciate that more than the potential mangling of all the Scottish accents. So yeah, not a huge recommendation, but it is the kind of cheesy Christmas movie thing that you may want to stick on while you're writing cards and wrapping presents. But why am I watching Christmas movies already? Let's just get the teeth back in there. It's me planning ahead, because Christmas is a busy time. October was busy with all the horror movies. November is Noirvember, so that's busy. And Christmas is the Christmas movie fest, as well as being really busy at work, being busy socialising, and doing stuff like spending time with loved ones and enjoying family and friend time during Christmas. But the way my mind works is I have to plan the daily blog that I do. I have to mark things off the checklist. I have to be covered for the podcast. I have to do this. That is it. So again, I thought it was worth mentioning here, because I enjoy cramming in as many movies as possible. I enjoy writing a review every day. I enjoy the podcast, but it's I don't know the right word. It's not necessarily an obsession. It's it's kind of a compulsion. It is something that is good for my mental health because I need that constant activity and focus, but also can take a slight toll because it has me busier than ever, and I just don't want to slow down on the way through to the new year. So these videos will keep coming once a week, I hope, but they may be a bit shorter. You might be relieved to know. They may just be posts that has come through the door. I don't know. If I see many more great November treats, then I will let you know. I'm not going to mention too many of the minor Christmas movies because, you know, they're all the same. They all go by the same template and pattern, so you don't need my guidance there. Although there are some big titles coming out that I will check out. That's it. Bit of November chat. I think I've mentioned a number of the podcasts that I've enjoyed listening to lately. There are so many. I seem to find more every week that are just full of real treats that really outweigh the bad ones. So I'm sticking with some positive chat there. And then, yeah, we're getting closer and closer to Christmas. So who knows, at some point I will put on a Santa hat or elf ears, and I will be listing off a number of Christmas treats. Until that time, take care.